and you'll understand why. So, this is blossoming period for olive trees. As you can see, in a few days olives will start to grow, and they are usually picked in November when they are not ripe. They have to be picked by hand since they are not ripe. Even if the branches of the trees are shaken, olives don't fall down. That's why we have to pick them by hand. A big cloth is put on the ground all around the base of the tree. The cloth is called parachute, so olives instead of picked by hand, collected with the parachute, put into cases and brought to the mill for the squeezing. This is the first step for the production of the so-called extra virgin olive oil. As you know, there are different kinds of olive oil: extra virgin, virgin, even if that's something which is not very popular, and regular olive oil. And what makes the difference in particular in their quality is something natural called oleic acidity. It's one of the most important characteristics for the olive oil. For instance, for wines, one of the most important characteristics is the alcoholic degree. For olive oils, the most important characteristic is the oleic acidity degree. Olive oils with a very high oleic acidity degree have a low quality. On the contrary, a low oleic acidity means excellent quality. So this company makes just extra virgin olive oil, that is, olive oils with acidity lower than 1%. And have you ever heard about the first cold pressing? This is the only method to produce the extra virgin olive oil. What does it mean? As said, olives must be picked in November when they're not ripe, so their natural oleic acidity is very low. When olives are riper, the oleic acidity is higher. Then immediately after the picking, they have to be washed with some cold water and squeezed with a maximum 36 hours time, just once, using some cold water to move the device for the squeezing, to move the machine for the squeezing. And cold water is very, very important to keep such a low acidity, because when olives are pressed, they can be warmed, and this can increase the oleic acidity degree. So it's always a matter of acidity. And as said, this is the first cold pressing, which is the only way to produce an olive oil that is very, very rich in quality, but very poor in quantity. This tree here is one of the biggest trees, olive trees in the property, and it hasn't been pruned this year. So it's bigger than it should. It makes an average 20 kilos of olives every year, about 40 pounds of olives every year. And this quantity of olives is enough just for 4 liters of extra virgin olive oil. So 4 bottles of extra virgin olive oil. That's why it's called the green gold. I want to tell you also why olive trees are not very big. Every 25-30 years, winter in this area is very cold and there's a big frost. Olive trees die because they cannot resist to temperatures which are lower than 5 degrees Celsius below zero. Here you can see the trunk, the body of the tree that died in 1985 during the last big frost. And then new shoots began to grow from the ground, and this is a 25 years old tree. Finally, there are many different kinds of olives in this area, and the most popular among the most popular kind of olives, there's one which is called the Frantoiane. It's the extra virgin olive oil that you're going to have today. It was made only with Frantoiane olives, which is a kind of olive that is very spicy and aromatic. That's the extra virgin olive oil usually recommended to dress salad or to dip the bread in and so on. You're going to have it on the typical Tuscan fettunta or bruschetta, which are slices of toasted bread rubbed with fresh garlic, and extra virgin olive oil is put on top.
Sounds delicious.
By the way, I've just looked up, minus 5 degrees is 23 Fahrenheit.
Thank you.
I have to look it up.
Bravo. Thank you for your
A
help.
little below 32.
My English is not excellent,
It's very good.
unfortunately, so
It's
if you
good.
don't
It's very
understand, feel free to ask me for a better explanation. Castle, the underground prison of the castle. The temperature in here is just of 15 degrees Celsius, about 60 Fahrenheit.
Is it? Okay.
And it's always constant, it's just natural, and the temperature is constant in particular thanks to the underground position of the cellar. The production of wine has begun in 1842, a long time ago, and nowadays it is of approximately 150,000 bottles of wine produced every year. Let's go in.
How many hours can I do?
I was just thinking that.
This is cool. It's a great smile.
Where are you pointing at?
Oh, it's really blue. Okay, allora. So I said this is a medium to small winery. Since the bottles produced are approximately 150,000 every year. And we usually love to say that real wine is red, while white wine is just a drink. There are obviously a lot of different of excellent white wines produced all over Tuscany. But especially with regards to this area, I can tell you that the most representative wines are red wines. I'm talking in particular about Chianti Classico and Chianti Classico Reserve, which are the wines certified and guaranteed by the Black Rooster label and the DOCG mark, means Denomination of Controlled and Guaranteed Origin. First of all, it's absolutely important to make a distinction between Chianti wine and Chianti Classico wine. Not all the wines produced in the Chianti area can be called Chianti Classico and can have the certifications that I just mentioned. Chianti wine is a very high quality wine produced in general all over the Chianti region. Chianti Classico and Chianti Classico Reserve, Classico is what makes the difference, are better quality wines produced in a small part of the Chianti region, which is the Chianti Classico area, and in particular, these wines must be produced by following many different strict rules that make them excellent. Rules are related, first of all, to the location of the vineyards that obviously have to be in the Chianti Classico area. Rules are related to the quantity of grapes that producers are allowed to pick per vine. Rules are related to the quantity of wine that they can make depending on the land owned. Among the different rules, there's one which is also related, for instance, to the mix of grapes used. What does it mean? As wine in general, both Chianti Classico and Chianti Classico Reserve are usually a blend of different black grapes. But at least 80% of the grapes used must be Sangiovese, which is the most popular, the most important Italian black grape. The other 20% of the grapes used then can be up to the different producers basically, who can use some more typical Italian grapes, for instance, Colorino, Canaiolo, Lambrusco, Black Malvasia, Mammolo. There's a very long list. But producers can also use some typical French grapes, for instance, Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon. All the grapes used, by the way, must be grown in the Chianti Classico area. That's the most important rule. Then, what makes the difference between Chianti Classico and Chianti Classico Reserve is the aging time. For Chianti Classico, the aging time has to be of at least 9 months to 1 year in big oak barrels, only in big oak barrels. While for Chianti Classico Reserve, the aging time must be of 2 years in big oak barrels and 1 more year in smaller barrels called barriques. They are made of, barriques are usually made of a special wood. I mean, they are usually made of French oak or American oak. This is a kind of wood that gives a very strong tannic and oaky taste to the wine. So the difference in the aging is what makes the difference in the taste of these two wines, in their colors, in their alcoholic degrees, and so on. Okay? So these are general information about Chianti Classico and Chianti Classico Reserve, which are the most representative wines of our winery. But besides them, we also produce some table wines, some super Tuscan wines, some sweet wines, many different wines. Table wine, as you know, are the daily wines, light and easy, young wines, because they mustn't be aged for a very long time. The sale of table wines can start already 3 months after the harvest. But have you ever heard about super Tuscan wines? Allora, super Tuscan wines are usually described as thick wines because they're very heavy, structured, and full-bodied. They can be produced all over Tuscany, not necessarily only in the Chianti area. And super Tuscan wines cannot be produced every year. They can be made only when the quality of the harvest is excellent. That's why they are considered the best wines produced by every Tuscan winery. They can be a blend of different black grapes, but honestly they can even be made just with one kind of black grape. What's important with regards to them is in particular the aging time, that must be of at least 1.5 years, 2 years, only in barrique, only in small oak barrels. And this is a very long time for a wine. So that's why they are very heavy and thick wines. Okay? Allora, now we're going to see the second part of the cellar. There are some more barriques and a couple of big barrels. With regards to big barrels, as you can notice, they do not have all the same size. On each of them there's a number that shows how many liters of wine a barrel can contain. 24, for instance, means 2,400 liters of wine. So 2,400 liters. The biggest oak barrel in the cellar is called the swimming pool. And you'll see why. This is a swimming pool, see? Allora, 7,200 liters of wine means approximately 9,300 bottles of wine.
So enough to last me days.
Pardon? Okay, by the way, this is the so-called swimming pool, as said, but it cannot be, this barrel cannot be used anymore because it's too old. Barrels do not last forever. By the passing of the time, it can change, especially in their internal part, and this can affect the taste of wine. So, big barrels must be replaced every 20 years. After 20 years, they cannot be used anymore at all. While barriques, the small barrels, can be used only for 4 years. After 4 years, by the way, they can still be used, but only for the production of balsamic vinegar.
Oh,
Which is good, but it's just vinegar, no more wine, okay?
that's interesting.
Allora, today you're going to try 4 different wines. But honestly, I do not know yet which are the wines that you're going to try. So I would say, let's go back by the tasting area. Let's start with our wine tasting, some snacks as well, and then the visit of the castle. We are exactly underneath the courtyard of the castle. And this little door here, which is closed with bricks, was the door, the main door of the underground prison, and it's we're going to see it in the courtyard. Okay? Bene, if you have questions, please ask me, and then I said that way to taste some wine.
When was the last time this one was used?
Approximately 35 years ago.
Okay.
This is a very old barrel, and every year the owner says, okay, we're going to destroy it and to replace it with a couple of smaller barrels. But they don't want to destroy it, obviously. It's nice to see.
Who makes the barrels?
In North Italy, there are different companies that make oak barrels. But especially the small ones, they are usually imported by France in particular, or by